My uncle left me everything in his will. I didn't understand why until the day I found a letter hidden inside the clock he gave me. For as long as I can remember, Uncle Remy was the one person in my family who made me feel invisible. Not unkind exactly, just distant in a way that had its own specific weight. Every family gathering, he'd move through the room hugging cousins, laughing loudly, refilling drinks, and then he'd reach me and something would shift behind his eyes. A brief nod, a hand on the shoulder that lifted too quickly. My cousins called him the fun uncle. I called him a mystery I'd stopped trying to solve around age 12. The first crack in that wall appeared when I was 11. I'd wandered into his study during a 4th of July cookout looking for a bathroom. He was standing at his desk with his back to me, holding a photograph. When he heard my footsteps, he shoved it into the top drawer so fast he knocked over a pen cup. He turned around, and the look on his face wasn't annoyance. It was something closer to panic. He walked me back to the yard without a single word. I told my father that night. He stared at his plate and said Remy was just private and that I shouldn't snoop. The conversation was over before it started, so I watched instead. I became an expert in Remy's almost moments, the way he'd start a sentence to me and then redirect it to whoever was standing nearby. The birthday cards he sent every year, always signed just his name, no message, but always on time, never late, never forgotten. When I got into college, he mailed me a check that covered my first semester's books, no note. When I got married, he sat in the 3rd row instead of with family and left before the cake was cut. My wife thought he didn't like her. I told her it wasn't about her. When he got sick, the family treated it like a logistical problem to manage. His liver, they said. Years of quiet drinking nobody had wanted to name out loud. I drove 3 hours every other weekend to bring him groceries and sit with him while he watched baseball. He never asked me to come. He never told me to stop either. One Sunday, about 2 months before he died, he looked at me during a commercial break and said, "You turned out better than I deserved." I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. He didn't laugh. He turned back to the game and didn't explain. He died on a Tuesday in March. The will shocked everyone, including me. The cousins got sentimental objects. I got the house, the savings, and a mahogany mantel clock he'd kept in his study my entire life. My father wouldn't look at me at the funeral. I almost sold the clock. It was heavy and old and didn't match anything I owned, but something stopped me. Some instinct I couldn't name. I had a restorer look at it 3 months after the funeral. She called me the next day and asked if I knew there was a compartment built into the base. I didn't. Inside was a letter, handwritten, 4 pages, dated 22 years earlier. Remy wasn't my uncle. He was my biological father. My mother, his younger brother's wife, had ended the relationship before she even knew she was pregnant. She'd chosen stability, chosen the marriage, and told Remy the baby wasn't his. He'd found out the truth when I was 9 years old, through a DNA test he'd requested privately, after noticing things he couldn't explain away. He'd spent the next 2 decades trying to figure out how to tell me, and deciding every single time that it would destroy too many people he loved. The letter ended with one paragraph I've read so many times, I don't need to look at the paper anymore. He wrote that the distance wasn't indifference, that every quick handshake was him stopping himself from holding on too long, that the clock was the one thing he wanted me to have because he'd wound it every single night while thinking about whether today was the day he'd finally be honest. He never was, but he left me the proof anyway. I wound the clock this morning. I don't know what else to do with any of it yet.